but when I went on the show, if you watch the show, it's not exactly what I thought. It ended up being the whole cast against me.
Hello, all, and welcome to Marsha, the podcast. I'm your host, Marsha Molinari, and you are here listening to the podcast that brings true and heartfelt human connection. I believe if you don't know about it, you can't care about it, and that's why we're here today. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Marsha. Thank you for joining us again, and I am here with a very special guest, someone that I've known a very long time. Her name is Somaya Reece. She's best known for her part on Love and Hip Hop, the first season, but you're coming back, right, girl?
Yeah, so we're currently airing right now our Where Are They Now special.
Right.
For Love and Hip Hop New York. So
and that aired this Monday?
This Monday and every Monday for the next 4 weeks.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I've also known her as, when we first met, you were doing all your music, rapping. When did we meet? Because that was before Love and Hip Hop. MySpace. Girl.
MySpace.
We're going to edit that part out. MySpace. Oh, course.
A long time ago.
No. I'm so happy and proud that I've known you for that long. Yeah. But you've been through a lot since. You know, you've brought yourself out of the ashes like a phoenix rising. You have your slim tees.
Yes,
thank you. Fit My Body, right?
This fits me.
This fits me. I'm always thinking of my body.
That's okay.
Yeah. This fits me. You know, and I was thinking about that on the way over here because I do actually often say to my friends, I'm like, can we get this in my size? You know,
right.
You know,
something that fits me.
Yeah, because the general idea is like one body type or one and it's not that. We're all in shapes and sizes.
That's exactly why I called my brand This Fits Me, because it is for everyone. It's inclusive for everyone. And there is no one size fits all. Like that entire rhetoric and theory needs to just go away.
Go away.
Like you're not welcome here. So I called my brand This Fits Me because I felt that there are many times in my life where I was different sizes.
Yeah.
And this is normal. Me too. And I want to normalize that it's okay. And whatever fits you. So if you're in a space where you're like, yeah, this style, this fits me.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, to empower yourself. And this fits you, like you said.
Oh, I love that, honestly.
So there's a deeper meaning behind it.
Well, I really want to take people back to where we were in that time, you know, MySpace, before Love and Hip Hop. And it was really the beginning of my nightlife hospitality world and my journey.
Yes.
And what, you know, kind of where we've been since and where we see ourselves going after.
Right.
Yeah. And so
it blossomed.
Yeah.
Yes,
it really did. Where were you in that time? I know you were just started, or you've been working on your music actually.
Yes.
And do you remember what your headspace was like then?
So prior to MySpace, I was discovered by a William Morris talent agent, and I dove into acting, and I was studying theater at UCLA. I also went to Aaron Spizer's master class.
I remember Aaron.
Yes. Yeah, Aaron. And so I was booking, but my headspace was I want to do music and I want to be an actress. This was like my aspirations. And so Tom, everyone's friend, you know, Tom invited me to MySpace, and I didn't know what a social media was, what a MySpace was. So Tom is truly a really big part of the discovery of Somaya Reece's music.
Yeah.
So I opened up. You know, I wasn't in a headspace yet because it was new.
It was all new.
I was literally
jumping in.
Freshly out of South Central. I'm born and raised in LA.
Right.
I'm a true Angelina. And I didn't have a car. I was on the bus. I was on the grind, but I was determined to make something of myself. I was determined to not be a statistic of my neighborhood. You know, I grew up in the roughest part of South Central and in different parts of it. So I was more on go mode.
Yeah.
But
survival mode, right?
Full survival.
That's probably constant.
Yes. It was full. I was born into survival mode.
Right.
And I remained there for a many long time until recently. where at the time I didn't know that. I didn't
Right.
identify that. I didn't know anything
Because that
about.
was just the world.
Right,
That
that
was
was
your
the
world that
world.
you were living in. That
Right.
was the world,
The world,
actually.
right. And so I was just, like on the grind. I opened up my MySpace page, and then I became the number one most friended and streamed music artist, but I was independent. I didn't know anything about record labels, nothing. And
Or
then
what that meant.
no, and then MySpace Records brought me in for a record label meeting, and I didn't have a team, so I turned down many record labels, multi-million-dollar deals, and it was probably the best thing I did because I was not prepared.
Right.
There's certain things. The universe and God's timing is always right.
Yeah.
You don't have to be religious to say that.
No.
God's timing in the universe and however it is that you view your spirituality is your time when it's supposed to be. So that was not my time.
No,
I had
no,
no idea, and that put me in a different headspace.
But I love that you say that because my mom, she tells these stories of what could have happened. And it breaks my
I
heart because
know.
she was like, I could have done this, and in my head, I'm like, but if you had did those things, I wouldn't have been born, girl.
Right.
But
No, it's true.
whatever along your way, these certain things don't happen for a reason, and there are teachers.
Yes.
These moments become our
Yes.
teachers, and if we're not ready for that, I wanted lots of things then too, and I'm
Right.
so thankful that I didn't get them
Right.
because not having met certain people in my life today is not worth that ripple effect, and I've said that
Right.
before here. And but I kind of do want to go back to growing up in South Central and being. I want to touch base a little bit about being part of a gang because I know in Central California, where I'm from, there was lots of gangs, and I've
Yeah.
had cousins that have been in
Right.
gangs, and the mentality around that, because when you don't really have a sense of family, that instantly
That is your
that is
family.
your family.
Yes.
And when someone finally shows you love, because I really want people to understand why you stay in it and why sometimes you get locked in, and you'll do things for people that finally show you love.
Love. Correct.
And you'll do wild things, like, it's ride or die. Like, this person will die for me. I'm
Yeah.
going to do the
I'm
same.
going to do the same.
And a lot of young youth get caught up in that because they're not shown that at home.
Right.
Any type of love. So if they're
Right.
shown love in the wrong way,
In the wrong places.
they snatch onto it and they
Yeah.
hold on for
They
dear
don't know
life.
any better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very interesting home. So my dad is my daddy. I'm a daddy's little girl. I ain't got no daddy issues in the respect of like he always overly till this day shows me love. Every day I can open up my phone. The first thing he does is good morning, preciosa, my queen, my beautiful baby.
Wow, that just gave me chills.
Yeah, every day. So growing up, I was very fortunate that I had a father that was like that and a brother that taught me how to be tough and don't let people walk all over you and things like that. And on the flip side, unfortunately, my father was suffering alcohol demons. And so when my mother and father would fight, my dad was overly loving and my mother was not. She would show her love in other ways. She'd cook for you. That her ways of showing you love was different.
Right.
And as a child, you want your mother's love too.
Totally.
And so I ran away when I was turning 10 years old because there was too much going on in the house and I never
10 years
returned.
old.
10 years old and I never returned. I've been on my own since I was 10.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
I can't imagine either because I look at my nieces and my nephews and I'm like, I can't even believe I was a little girl.
But you
holding
must
my
have already
own.
had a built-in like survival.
Yeah,
like,
I knew.
all of that's in there because
All of it.
I've said before, like, I don't know how when I was little, like, I knew instantly, like, if I wanted something and I have to like work for it. So I was like selling stuff at like 5 years old.
Yeah, me
like
too.
on the playground, I was selling candy
I would do
bars.
Hallmark cards.
Yeah, I was like, well, I got to do this on my own.
So chicles.
And actually, I ran
Yeah.
away when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, it didn't work out that day.
Okay.
Girl, but I did all the movements. I jumped the fence. We crawled on the ground. I had to re-jump the fence, get back into bed.
It's very common though for kids.
But yeah, I mean, because it wasn't an ideal situation for myself, but like 10 is.
Yeah,
So
it was
So where'd you go?
So I stayed in trap houses. You know, I
Wow.
stayed in trap houses. My brother was very involved with the streets, so I never had a problem with anyone kind of bothering me. But I did suffer a lot of pain in other ways, a lot of trauma, and
Well, one, not a
just
real life, a real
it,
sense of sensibility,
no,
or like
I had
or
no
stability.
stability. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was going to eat or where I was going to sleep at night. But what I did know is that leaving my home was better for me mentally at the time. And I didn't realize that. I just knew I had to go
Right.
because no one was hearing what I had to say. And I hearing the constant fighting and it was just traumatizing me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta go. And I got my first job at a swap meet when I was 12. But prior to that, I was like just selling stuff, like, like all
Yeah.
kids in the hood. And it was helping me survive to have enough food. Trap houses are free. So it's not like I had to pay rent.
Right.
And I got my own apartment when I was 12. And a lot of different things
Wait, can I just
happened.
ask, what exactly is a trap house? I'm like, was she just involved? There was music all day long. She was like,
well, you know, I'm a
can I
hip
get a
hop.
break? I used to go at night only because the music stopped then. Like,
All right, well, you know Fetty Wap's song,
yeah,
Trap Queen?
right.
Okay.
That was me.
So a trap house is where, the boys go live and they sell drugs out of.
Okay.
So it's a trap house. It
Right.
depends. There's levels to the trap house. There's,
Right.
a trap house where the bosses are at and then the workers just come and do what they do and they leave. And then there's trap houses that are / crack houses.
Right.
Because
So there was just a sense of danger, real danger,
all the time,
all around you.
all the time. I mean, they did drive-bys, like it was real. And but I had to do what I had to do. And
Right.
I almost felt that the danger was worth it for me than to see my mother and father fighting. And then my mother's, doesn't really show love in that way. So it was kind of hard to talk to her about certain things.
So you're like,
And at
I'm
the
gonna go
same
get
time,
what I need on my own.
on my own,
Right.
right? And so that's exactly what I did. I got my first job. I got a little apartment in the hood. I mean, no one's going to ask you for ID, and I've always looked older than I was because I was developed and I was tall.
Right.
And that's not very common for like Latin neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I was really tall. So I would always say like, oh, I'm 19, and they're not going to ask.
You're like, okay.
So I got like this really tiny little apartment. It was like literally the size of a bathroom, but it was enough to lay my head, go to work, but I had aspirations. I had things I wanted to do.
You knew it was going to be different.
I knew that I could get myself out of it, but along the way, a lot of really bad things happened to me. One particular thing is that, with the gangs, I was walking with my friend, walking home, and this gang member from the same neighborhood but a different area was really high, and he kidnapped me and my friend. And he held us in a basement for almost a week.
No.
Yeah. And it was really traumatizing. And I'm very fortunate that I was not sexually assaulted.
Right.
But every day, this man would tell me that he was going to rape me. And I fought.
I mean, that
so
not even
hard.
like having the physical trauma.
No,
but
just
the
hearing
mental
it.
trauma is like,
Yeah.
wow.
It was.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It used to bother me, but like it is still an emotional thing for me, but I'm finally now able to talk about it, and I, one of the days that he was out getting his crack, I untied myself and I went to go get my friend because she was upstairs and I was downstairs. And at night when he was gone, we would talk between the vents and we were just trying to figure out like, how are we going to get out? So I just grabbed her because she wasn't really a fighter. She's a very just sweet girl, and I was more like, come on, we gotta go. And we just, ran. But, he shot us, he stabbed us. It was
by when you tried to escape.
No, before that. So we were almost bleeding out, dying.
No.
Yeah, this story could be very different.
Yeah.
So we ran and kept running. And,
This is like, well, I'll tell you, same. When I was 12, again, a lot of things happened when I was 12, but I was in my friend's front yard and someone tried to scoop me and put me in their car.
It's very real.
And I'm so thankful because I do remember, I had this in my head So when I looked up at the guy, he was so big, he just scooped me. Like
Oh my
I was like
God.
a
You're
feather.
little.
So little.
Yeah.
And then when he dropped me because I was kicking, I pounded on my friend's door. My friend didn't even ask or didn't even know what was going on. He grabs me and they're both pulling on
Oh
me.
my
And he
gosh.
almost got me to the car the second time. And luckily the neighbor came out. But I thought about that day so many times, but also that lives on your body. And like
Oh,
what you went through is
right.
like what the nightmare would be if,
Yeah.
possibly if I had
It's
gone.
still a nightmare even if that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's very common in in urban neighborhoods,
Yeah.
you know.
My niece has told me that she's been followed
Yeah,
before
it's
inside of
happened to me
stores. Like,
now
yeah.
as an adult, and
Yeah.
it's really creepy and it's very sad because my story could have been different.
Definitely.
I
Well, you
may
were
not.
meant to be here.
Right. I know now that a lot of those things that happened to me. See, I wasn't like a bad kid. I
Right.
was a good girl running with the wrong crowd because I was
In
trying
bad
to escape.
situations. Right. Each time.
It's
Like if
like
you're
I
on
escape one,
levels.
I'm like,
Yeah.
heading to the big boss to fight him and then fighting
Right.
someone else. It was just an entire forever survival mode.
Right.
And it was never deactivated
Right.
until
No one stops the game or
yeah,
pause
right.
or
Yeah. The game
it's like,
doesn't stop or
yeah,
pauses at all.
definitely.
At all. So yeah, I would have to say that the things that I did learn from a lot of these situations that happened to me is that I totally believe that I was put on this earth to endure these traumas, survive them, and have a story to tell so that I can inspire others. I
100%.
am a vessel and I know
Yes.
it. And it took me a long time to accept that
To
because,
know that you were meant to be here instead of
yes,
like, why is it all coming at
why,
me?
why,
Yeah.
like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And,
Not
and
not in the sense where you get to that place where for you
correct,
because you're the one that could handle it.
correct.
Because
I know that I have two sisters, and I know one of them. She could never. She can't
never.
even.
Yeah.
No. Then it's for me. It wasn't. I don't. I look back and I think about a lot of situations aside from that happened to me, and I'm like, how the f did I survive that?
Right.
But I had the will. I was like, no.
And it's not going
If
down
it's
like
no, it's
this.
not. If it comes down to two people eating,
Right.
you're not gonna eat me.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been that way. I've carried that throughout these years. I stand up for myself. I am not a doormat.
Right.
I am no one's option. I
Right.
am not going to be a mean girl.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow it to turn me into I'm a savage in a different way.
Right. When
know what I
you're coming
mean?
at me, it's different.
Yeah.
But then you got an open heart as
Right.
well.
I'm full of love, and I just want to show other people like it's okay, you can heal from it.
Right.
Absolutely not. We should not have gone through trauma.
No. You
No.
don't want it for other people or
No.
yourself, but
But
what you're
if
saying
you
is that
do.
you went through it
Mm-hmm.
and survived it.
Healed.
But
And
it's
it's constant healing.
every day.
Constant every day. Every day.
So when do you get out of this? How far along to where this happened?
Mm-hmm.
Do you stay because of circumstance then after
Mm-hmm.
until you're able to get out? And when are you able to get out?
So when you live in a certain area, you don't know what's outside of there, you're
Yeah.
not getting out.
And it's not, you don't even think it's for you.
No. Like I didn't really know that there was anything else outside of that.
Right.
And sadly, when was like, okay, I'm going to maybe try to go to school, but I wasn't going home. I obviously needed parents' permission.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, all these years, didn't know what happened, why I ran away. And, when I got a hold of my father again, he was like, why did you leave? I've been looking for you. Like, please come home. But my mother didn't want me there. And so it was a battle of, husband probably, telling wife something. And then at the same time, my dad was like, well, you don't deserve to be in this toxic environment. So he helped guide me, and I got, he would come see me, and I was like, Daddy, I want to go back to school. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Yeah, I want to be an actress. I was playing the violin when I was in school. I was in the choir, and I wanted to sing, and I want to do this, but I don't, I'm in this situation.
Yeah.
And my father has always been like, you can be anything you want to be. Literally, my dad is the biggest cheerleader. Anyone that meets him someday, you'll meet him too.
Yeah.
He just cheers for
I would love to.
everyone. He is just the sweetest person. And so, partial of my guidance was my father,
And that voice being like, you can do anything, you
Right.
can do anything.
And just a lot happened in between then, at the time. I met a man, and I didn't know he was older than me. I was still a young girl,
Right.
and he was preying on me. Later on, I found out he was like, I was 14 turning 15,
No.
and he was like 30 somethings, but he looked so young because he dressed the part and everything. And he convinced me that my father didn't love me and
He groomed you
things of that.
to make
He did
you.
groom me, and then I became a teen mom. And I went through hell. He left me on the streets. I mean, then I'm back on the streets, pregnant. Like, what am I gonna do? And just there's so many things that happened that we could literally be here for days. Uh, I My son was murdered,
Your son was
and that
murdered.
changed my life.
How could it not?
That was probably the biggest thing that just like it's not that I was doing anything bad. You know what I mean? It was not my fault. I
Right.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't. This man, he was telling me, like, oh, your parents don't love you. Like, I'm gonna love you, and you don't know that
Right.
as a little girl. I was a little girl.
Yeah. You believe.
So
That's where the grooming comes in and
right, it's just the
mentality.
manipulation.
Yeah.
The manipulation. So
You were stuck in it.
I I went through a lot of pain because of that, and my son died in my arms, and it's something that I've never been able to truly grasp, partially understand, because it's something that you don't really
Of
truly
course.
understand.
I mean, how?
But it just felt like after one thing there was the other,
Right.
and then I'm trying to get my life together, and my daddy helps me enroll in high school.
Well, I just want to stop and say this is just a testament to you and your spirit being so strong, because to survive one of those things is heroic.
Yeah.
And you are a hero, and you have
Thank
to
you.
know that, because one of those little things, most people will never go through any kind of struggle or pain or have to overcome any of these things. Most people are like, there's young kids out there that just don't want to go to school, and that's their
Sorry, hold
big
on. Can I
thing.
have a napkin?
Yeah, of course.
you.
Totally.
It's okay.
No,
Thank you.
go ahead. But I just want you to
Thank
know,
you. And
like,
it took me so long.
no, of course. I mean, this is what we're here, and I always say this every episode, is that if you don't know about it, it's hard to care about it.
Yeah.
And so the importance of sharing your story for other people, for that young girl that's out there and not knowing
Right.
what she's going to do with her life because her parents have turned her away, or, she doesn't feel like there's another way out.
Right.
The message is here, it gets better.
It always gets better. And
if you allow it.
Yes, you have to allow it. You have to open your heart to know that there is something better out there. I wouldn't say better, but there's a path that's for you that
Right.
doesn't have to be so traumatic.
Right.
And it just that's like a big piece of, that whole situation. I was like, I got rid of that guy. Like, I was like, dude, I do not want to ever talk to you again. Do not come around here. My father, threatened him. Like, and then when I
That must have
started
taken a lot, because once you're kind of in that mindset, and people can manipulate you in a certain way, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
let you believe. My own father used to tell my mom, "You'll never find anyone. You'll never
Like
find love."
me.
And like you, then it's like, nothing like you. What are you talking about? You're not that great. But then you just still believe it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's you're young and your mind is.
You don't know. You're not developed.
No.
You're not developed. Yeah, you're not developed. But the best thing I did was I was like, bye. But he wouldn't let me go. He wouldn't let me go. And, Unfortunately, like, he came back and he beat me. And he said that if he can't have me, no one else will. And I don't remember anything past that. And his laughing. And I woke up
Evil.
and I was being resuscitated. He left me in a pool of my own blood. He meant to kill me.
And here you still are.
And he meant that, but he didn't.
You didn't.
He didn't.
She hard to kill.
No, listen.
Girl.
I'm like Michael Myers. Like,
Right?
you know what I'm saying?
You thought you got me, but you didn't. It's not the end.
I'm coming back.
Right.
But I look at it so differently now. But like at the time, I didn't ask for that. You know what I mean? I left this guy. He wouldn't let me go. And it's like, it was just.
Again, one thing after the other.
Yeah, it was just like, can I get a break?
Yeah. Can I get a break? Can I get
breathe?
a fucking break, honestly?
I was never allowed to breathe.
Wow.
I just was not allowed to breathe.
And so is that kind of where you turn into music? Like, because I know like music can be so therapeutic and releasing all the things you want to say, all the things you've been through, and no one has your story. And
everyone. Everyone.
Were you writing at this time? Like writing your...
So I was writing a lot of poems.
Yeah.
I was writing a lot of poems when I was in school. I was in the highly gifted program and playing violin. And I always wanted to make music, but just coming fresh out of all of these things, I don't know any producers,
right?
And I can't trust any men,
right?
Already
that's established.
That was I don't So I cleaned houses with my mom when we were kids, and I got a job cleaning hotels. I actually used to work at the Beverly Hills Hotel cleaning rooms.
No way.
Yeah, and also at the Holiday Inn Select Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And the Prescott.
Right.
So I used to clean rooms. I used to take the bus, and I would work 2 shifts. I would work the 6 a.m. to 3, and then the next hotel I would work from 5 to 11 or 12. I forgot, or 6 to 12. I forgot. Wow. And that was my routine. And then when school would start, I was going to school. And I was actually writing poems. I didn't really know what I was doing. I wanted to be an actress. But every day, people would be like, "You're a maid here? You should be an actress. You're so pretty. Why are you here?"
Like, I don't know.
I'm like,
I'm trying
I don't
to
know.
figure that out myself.
Help me.
Right.
Like, you know somebody?
Right.
So, interestingly enough, I was actually discovered because I was cleaning rooms. This little old couple, we're like, "Oh, call my son. He's an agent, and you shouldn't be here. You speak English. You're beautiful. You're tall." And I am, they're old people, right. So I'm like, okay, they definitely got nothing against me, right. So I kind of basically that's really where it started. I went in for an audition, and I didn't even know it was an audition, and got sent out as like every casting call, and I just started booking, and then just my life changed.
Wow.
Just everything changed. And then I told my agent, like, I really want to sing and rap. And he was like, let me see what I can do. And then I got on MySpace, and then Tom opened up the door and helped me find producers and different things. And just, it was just, my life changed.
And how long after did Love and Hip Hop come then?
So Love and Hip Hop was, so remember when all the like love shows were happening?
Yeah.
For the love of?
Yeah.
So I was offered
all of them, girl.
Yes, right. I was offered all of them because I was the only Latina, Afro, Latina on MySpace. Like, right. There was no one like me on there.
Right.
And so I was, they call my agent or they DM me. And
no, because in that time it was one thing.
It was one thing.
It was one thing only.
It was one thing. Every time I would tell people, like, I'm Salvadorian, but I'm Afro-Latina, they were like, what? What's that? Yeah. But I was booking the roles of that. Right. And so in Hollywood, they understood, but people as a whole didn't understand that.
Right. I'm sure it wasn't as easy as booking. I'm sure you had to do a lot.
It was, it was just like, but I am a hard worker and I'm willing to put in the work. So I was like, this is my ticket. I'm like, right. I don't know how this is going to work out for me, but I love this. I love that I can be an artist in this. Mm-hmm. My teacher, before I went to acting school, my agent was like, all the casting directors are saying, you're a natural. He's like, but if you want to be great and you want to really do this for the long haul, you need to go to acting school. So I was like, okay, cool.
Where the school at?
Let's go. Where the school
Let's
at? I'm
go.
in there.
Yeah.
Don't tell me twice.
Right.
And so I pretty much, was using the money for my bookings. Plus, I was still working part time, cleaning rooms. And I started to also do vocal lessons as well. And I went to a musical school as well. And Aaron Spicer kind of put me on to all these other people. And at the time, J-Lo wasn't like fully J-Lo yet. It
And
was
she
the
was with
early
him too,
Jennifer
right?
Lopez. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
that's what I
always
remember.
would tell me, like, you remind me of my client. You just will not stop and you're going to get there.
Yeah.
You always told me there was something special about me. I mean, he still will and was just a big supporter. He almost reminded me of my father. He was like, you got this, girl. Like, use that street shit you learned. Like, he's very real like that. You know, he's like, use that for your roles. Go out for those roles. Go out for the chola role, whatever. Like, you can embody it. Right. So me and the headspace I was at was more so I'm in go mode.
Right.
I didn't even know.
Doesn't stop.
No, it was just like, again, I still couldn't breathe.
Right.
I was just
because
going,
it's nonstop.
but it was more positive.
Right.
Then I got my own little apartment in Hollywood, and it was a nice quiet street, and I was.
What street in Hollywood was quiet?
Well, like like in Franklin,
Orange
I know.
between this.
Yeah, exactly. You already know.
Right.
Like when Franklin was quiet.
Right.
Like,
Franklin was quiet at one point. That was a secret street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I lived there, so I got a little place, and I mean, the first night sleeping there was like no noise. And I was like,
oh, what a change for you that way.
I just felt like, oh no, this is the life I want to live.
Yeah.
At peace. I wasn't chasing fame. I wasn't chasing anything. I was just like, I just got to get out of the hood.
Right.
I just have to get out of this.
Yeah. I'm going to stay no matter what. There was no choice to go back.
No.
I mean, it was that for me when I first moved here too. And what I tell like younger people moving here, and they say, I'm going to give it 6 months. I'm going to give it 2 years. I'm all,
oh, no.
Oh, wait, what? You're going to give
like
it, what? No, there was no going back. There was no time limit for me here. The time that I needed and the rush was, I need to stay and do anything to stay here. I mean, my first apartment was up on Sycamore in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
And I shared, someone had a 1-bedroom. They had the 1-bedroom and they put up cubicle walls.
Yes.
And so there was
you shared it with some friends.
Not even friends, girl. It was somebody else. We had a hot plate. The oven was off.
Yeah. That's
but
grind.
I loved it then because I was like, this is better than my situation back home. So I'll do this. This is easy for me.
Yes.
There's no one coming at me. This is great for me. So I understand that, like, and finally have that space of your own.
Right. And then coming from such a turbulent place, I was like, this is great. Like I'm happy. I've only had like one roommate like my whole life, because once I was able to like have my own place, I was like, oh no, I need to be by myself.
Right.
But this person actually is still a friend of mine now, and he became this huge architect in Palm Springs.
Oh wow.
He's great, really nice guy. And I was just very happy just to be out of there, and I just kept pushing. I kept pursuing it. I just kept, I'd show up on time, be professional, studied my craft. And, I on MySpace, I was asked by the producers to, if I was in New York or going to be in New York, that there was some kind of casting going on for something. And I didn't think anything of it. And at the time, the rapper, his DJ, New Jersey Devil, he was like, the kind of music you want to do. So I was like, I want to make this type of Spanish music. I had this vision of what I wanted it to be like. And he said that type of music, they make it in the East Coast or in Miami or Puerto Rico. I was like, who do I know out there? I don't know. How am I going to get there?
Can we do it here too?
Yeah, exactly. And he said, just, if you could just save up some money and just go out there, and I'll put you with different friends of ours, And I was like, okay. So I pretty much sold everything I had, went there with one suitcase, a pocket full of lint, and said, what is the worst that could happen?
Right.
And while I was there, I met with some producers. I started working with the producer, and then my now show producer was like, hey, would you like to come in and audition for the show? It's about hip hop. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went, and it wasn't really an audition. It was more just like of a conversation. Like, they're
Yeah,
like, what are you
getting to
doing
know
here?
you.
Yes. They're like, well, they knew my whole story from MySpace, obviously. And uh, like the next day, they offered me the show. But when I went on the show, if you watch the show, it's not exactly what I thought. I thought I was going on there, it was just going to show, my grind. But it ended up being the whole cast against me.
Just
Three
drama. You're
girls.
like,
Yeah,
girl,
three girls against me.
wait,
And I'm like,
wait.
what? Yeah, I'm just trying to make music, y'all.
Right.
I don't want to bother nobody. And so being the person, the fighter that I am, I never backed down. And
You're like,
I
no,
was
I'm not the one.
respectful.
Right.
No, I was respectful to everybody around me. Like, yo, I'm just trying to work. Like, I really don't want to bother nobody. Like, but you're not going to step on me.
Right.
Because that's the one thing I tell people all the time. So
Now,
you,
was
you
that
can
was
be,
that more of a producer? Were they like trying to create this
I mean,
drama?
we'll never know.
Right. Right. But someone was talking to somebody's ear,
I
or
mean,
something like
yeah, they were definitely telling, one of the girls on the cast that I was probably trying to be with her boyfriend. And how would any woman feel like that? Like,
Right.
some girl coming, I get it, right? And
Now.
like, we can laugh about it now.
Right.
And me and her did laugh about it, actually, but at the time, it was nothing funny about it.
No.
For me, I was just like,
I'm trying to do this one thing.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not bothering nobody, y'all.
Right.
Like, I'm just trying to make music. And so it was, the story that I showed was the raw truth of what it's like to be an artist on the grind.
Right.
I didn't have a place to stay, so I was couch surfing. Then I stayed in an attic.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not ugly, so it's not like I couldn't find somebody
Right.
that would help me.
But
my path and
Right.
what I choose, that's not what I wanted.
Right.
I wanted to grind it out on my own, for my own, because one thing that I learned from, some things that happened to me on the streets is that I will never let anybody have a hand over me in that respect.
Nothing's for free.
Do you know what I mean? And I was very like, no, I want to work with producers that just want to work.
Right.
Like, that's it. And anything extra.
Isn't that funny that that's what has to be said?
It has to be said, but I actually am very fortunate that I've never had any issues in that way. And I don't know if it's because of how I present myself. I don't know if it's my aura.
You're like, you're not gonna step.
Yeah, no, but I've actually, producers, directors, everybody, I haven't had that issue.
Right.
I might have had somebody flirt with me, but never anything crossing the line in a negative way. So I'm very happy about that, because I ain't trying to knock nobody out. You know what I mean?
Girl, that to be honest,
as a woman, let me take my heel off real quick.
I was telling my mom this the other day. It happened to me a lot. It was like constant that and
see, it can be the opposite.
Yeah,
See?
it was like, I'm gonna give you this if you do this, and I'm like, you don't know who you just messed with. And at this very time, I worked for the head of sexual harassment for SAG, so I was like, you don't know who you just messed with. And I went to him, and he was like, you should do it. And then I walked out of his office, and I was like, is this what it's about? Yeah. Like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. And I can't believe that's the only guy to go to, and that was the advice at the time that would never fly anymore.
Right.
Thank God things have changed, because for me, it didn't seem like there could be anybody else to go to. And so it was discouraging for a minute, but I didn't let that one casting director stop me.
And that's the thing, is like, I feel that, obviously those things exist, but for me, it's like, I understand. So this industry is really interesting, and things that I've learned. So I believe that I've been able to apply my street knowledge, literally my street knowledge and everything I learned in the streets, to what I do now. And I became successful because I had those street smarts, and I have book smarts. You can't really run a circle around me. Right. I'm.
You're gonna see it first before when you start putting your shoes on. You're gonna notice.
And I'd actually rather somebody just keep it G, like what you want, like instead of being like.
So you can let them know.
Yeah, so I can make my decision instead of being a creep.
Right. Right. No,
you know what I mean? Or instead of being somebody that is not, because there's a lot of promises.
Right. I mean,
People will
yes.
promise you everything. So I've been very fortunate that I think a lot of the people that I've worked with have been very straight up, and like I said, I've had some people flirt with me, whatever, and that's cool. It's like I'd rather know what's going on, because all that sneaky stuff, like I already know what that is. Like, and I think people need to stand up for themselves more and also speak up. Don't be afraid of speaking up. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
You mentioned, like, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, it's cool. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And if
Right.
you're not comfortable with something, just say it.
Right.
But I know that some people, they're introverts, or they can't speak up for themselves. It's
Well,
hard.
right. And we were
It's
talking a
hard.
little bit about this right when you came in, and it was about, especially during the pandemic, and about how rough it was, and the loneliness,
Yes.
and then to deciding to what to share, and not wanting to be someone that was whining, but someone, then how much do you keep in until then you're hurting yourself?
And then it becomes dangerous.
And then it becomes dangerous for you or for anyone.
Right.
To not always post that picture of you smiling, but maybe the month, the week, the year, the years have been tough.
Yes.
But that happens with everyone. So why are we so afraid of sharing those emotions when things are tough? And why does it have to seem like a burden?
Right.
To share the bad things? I mean, what, like, the mentality behind that?
I think that, so everyone's story is different,
For
right?
sure.
But I know that for myself, I've always been very transparent. But when COVID hit, like, it was different. It changed the world entirely.
Mm-hmm.
It changed my life it started very negative because, I was at the epicenter. I lost my first friend from COVID. Then I lost my friend's mother, who I was close with. And it
Kept hitting,
it just
like, again.
didn't stop.
Yeah.
I can't breathe again. I went into a very deep, high functioning depression where I would have to smile,
The high functioning part, yes.
The high functioning part. And I have never dealt with such a deep depression. So I didn't even know what I was feeling.
Right. You didn't know how
And on occasion, I would share it. But what I have realized a little bit about a little bit, because it's very different for everyone. So in my home, maybe it's a very traditional Latino thing. Feelings, depression. No, you don't talk about that. What is the family gonna think? Like, therapy?
Right.
What? Like, that is a very now thing.
Or even getting to a hospital, like a doctor.
A doctor?
No, we're gonna heal you here.
No, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna give you some vapor rub, some
Right.
vaporub, and a ginger ale. You know what I'm saying?
And some
No
crackers.
ginger tea and some crackers, exactly.
For sure.
But I think that a lot of it stems.
And that's a problem.
Oh, it's a big.
Yeah.
We're laughing, but it is a
Right.
problem. And I think
Exactly.
that a big part of some of these things on what we feel, see, in Latino families and a lot of families of culture, we are raised with guilt.
Mm-hmm. It's there.
So be grateful. And then when you kind of get a little success, you feel a little guilty for it almost.
Right.
When you start to have these sadness of feelings, you feel a little guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is because of generations
Mm-hmm.
of teachings.
Right.
It is also something that when you're lonely and you're by yourself, I've always kind of been a loner too. Like, I don't really run in packs.
Right.
I feel actually more unsafe in packs.
Right.
Than, safe. Some people feel safe in packs. I don't.
Right.
And what I have learned is that when you are alone, you are at your true self.
Mm-hmm.
You are at the most vulnerable place. Can you live with yourself?
Right.
Do you know how? No, we're not taught these things.
Right.
I've been by myself for so long that when COVID hit, it still hit me because I thrive off of the energy of others.
Right.
I'm also an empath, so I also absorb energy of others.
Right.
But when this was happening, it was like, because no one was talking about it, but then when people just, like, you start sharing things, I knew, like, you made me feel seen and heard. You made me feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. you know, and then I reached out to you. I was like, hey, I hope your nephew's okay when you
Yeah.
were dealing with that. I hope you're okay, you know. And then friends of mine, I had a friend of mine that recently shared how COVID like almost destroyed their entire relationship because both people got depressed, you
Right.
know. And then I had another friend that said the same thing about their relationship.
Right.
And it was like, oh my God,
No one's
I'm,
talking about this, but
no one's talking about it, but now I'm not alone.
right.
Like I feel seen and heard. And that's when I started to open up a little bit more and I started to go into healing. My fiance is a spiritual healer as well. So she taught me that it was okay to feel like that because I felt guilty
Right.
for feeling that way.
Right.
I also
Felt guilty for feeling depressed, and now it
feeling
made you
depressed.
more depressed because you feel
It's
guilty.
like it never
You're like,
ended.
oh, the weight.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I felt depressed because I was depressed. And then
You felt guilty for being
felt for,
depressed. Yes.
yeah. So I really say that, you know, like my fiance really was my rock during a lot of that. And she was like, she's very different than me when it comes to stuff like that. She's very like, you know, like just, you know, like it's okay, you know,
Feel
like
your feelings.
feeling your feelings, but go kick some ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and for me, I this was new for me
Right.
because I haven't, like I said, I haven't had a chance to breathe, and I've been healing along the way. But it's like that
On your
everything can just
own.
stop.
And when you're healing on your own,
It's like
you
it
can
feels
do
lonely.
it. But then, yes.
Yeah, it
gets
feels lonely no matter what anyone says.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just you.
Right.
It is not happening to anyone.
Right. And you're like,
And
how?
right, and then I felt guilty for feeling that way because then I felt like, am I? God, that's so self-centered of me to believe that, but it's all because of the trauma and the guilt and the feeling like
Layers
you're
and
not.
layers.
It's just layers and layers, and so once we began to unpeel each one, little by little, you know, we started working out more. We started meditating,
And all of, like this helped me as well.
little by little.
Yeah. It was like when I went to we talked about this. I went to like the beginning of the pandemic. I was hugely depressed. I didn't know what was going on in the world.
Right.
My phone that would ring 30 times a day with people wanting things or asking for things or
Nothing.
let's hang out
Yeah.
because, I want to go to your restaurant or
Yeah.
I want to go to this party with you. Nobody called. And I was like, where are all those people? And now I'm by myself. And who, at the time when I was figuring out and struggling with my transitioning,
Right.
I was like, who am I doing this for? There's no one calling.
Right.
Why am I changing myself for people that aren't really there? And when you're stuck with yourself, like you said, you really sit with yourself. And that's when I found Marsha.
Yeah.
And then when I found Marsha, I was like, oh, I'm going to take care of you.
Yes.
And I'm going to take care of that special part that I've been pressing down. So that's when I started the meditation and sitting with Marsha. And that's when I started working out to have a place for Marsha to be and not have like, something so heavy or dark anymore because I wanted to let her be free and let me be free, as Marsha. And so that's when, like you said, I saw you transforming. I saw you working out. And I needed
was
those
so
things.
proud of you.
And I'm thankful for the awareness, even for you to find someone that can support you along that journey and teach you. Like you said, she actually taught me to meditate and to give you that love and light that you needed in those moments.
And it was unconditional without judgment. That's a really big deal.
Totally.
It's a really big deal. So it felt very, I'm happy for you, and I've been watching.
Happy for us.
Yeah, yes. And that's why I would check in, and see how you're doing. Because I felt like that once I started to also see I'm not the only one, then as well, how you said how people are not calling you anymore. And for me, it was a little bit of a couple of variety of things that were happening. My phone has never really rang that much because but when it did, it was like, oh, can I have something? Like, you haven't even called me and asked me if I've had a glass of water today. Like,
or am I okay? You survived.
Are you okay? Yeah.
Right.
So I started to weed out anything that when this COVID finally opens back up.
Go change
A lot
my
of
number.
people me 2.
Oh,
Okay.
can't get a hold of me.
That's exactly. So I felt like that. I just knew that. So in the beginning, I didn't see kind of how I'm feeling now.
Right.
In the beginning, it just felt really just. I mean, just a lot of different feelings. Losing friends, between, like, oh my gosh, like this is like weird not being able to like hug my friends.
Right.
That was driving me crazy, and I'm a over germaphobe.
Right.
So I was like afraid to even sit like
Yeah.
over there
Yeah,
and
you're
here.
not
Like
coming
I was
over.
like, I was like, I love you, but I gotta be over here.
Right.
Like he will be over there. Like it was just such
And
a.
that's trauma anyway.
That is. I felt so traumatized. I'm like, am I ever
And also
going to see
sometimes,
my friends again?
am I the only
My
one
family? Am I the only one?
feeling this way? Because I've had certain friends that were just wilding out.
Oh, a lot of them. This is why I
Right.
actually was turning down TV shows during quarantine because
Right.
some were filming and I was offered some stuff, but I was watching their Instagram and they were wearing no masks and then they would be like, "Oh, I got COVID. I don't know where I got it from.
You're like, girl.
I just saw you."
Right. Like, I'm not doing that.
Like I'm not doing that.
Right.
Yeah, so it was once I started to come to terms more with, okay, I'm not alone.
Right.
I'm not alone. And I've always been a fighter. So I started to adapt this mentality called, what are you going to do about it? So what are you going to do about it,
What are you gonna do
Somaya?
about it?
Are you going to sit and just completely fall apart?
Right.
That's not even like me.
Right.
Are
It
you?
hadn't happened then.
No. Like, why
So
now?
Yeah.
And for me, it was a total spiritual journey. So when I literally reached that, I remember my girl was like, "Damn, girl, it's about time."
Where have you been? Been waiting for
she's
you.
like, "I knew you had it in you," and I think that when I mean, I say it all the time. I'm like, I'm not complaining. What am I going to do about it?
Right.
What am I going to do about it? So I started to really open up my eyes in a different way this time.
Right.
I started to, okay, well, I'm not comfortable doing this, so I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
I'm not going to get depressed about it. I'm just, I don't know, not show up to a place, whatever the case was.
Right. If it wasn't for you,
if it wasn't for me, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
If I feel the slightest amount of low vibrational or negative energy from anyone,
exactly, I'm out.
And I'm not saying everyone's perfect because we all have things. It's called duality,
Right.
Sometimes you sit in a dark space,
Right.
sometimes you're in your light space, but we all know when someone's being negative and not in a good way. So I started to become much more aware, and my energy actually
It's all about awareness.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much better I read energy now.
Right.
And how I went from I'm feeling down to no.
But once you get that awareness, I'll tell you, there's no going back.
Oh, there's no going back.
There's no
It is
going
the
back.
wildest thing. It's like my intuition is at its highest. The energy I read, I don't let people trauma dump on me. And I'm here for you, but I cannot be everyone's sponge because I also, whatever you're feeling, I'm going to feel because I'm a true empath. I'm there for people, but I can't be everything for everyone all the time.
Right.
And at one point, that's what I became, but nobody was there for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The phone calls you get, like, gimme, but,
exactly.
But I need to talk,
right.
too. So once I
got
started
something to say.
Once I started to identify that even within my family, my circle went from like just like this to like a dot.
Right.
But I like my dot.
Right.
We're doing good.
We're good with the dot.
Yeah, we're good with the
Right.
dot. And I feel that everyone that surrounds me is very true to themselves. And that's the biggest thing that I feel that I've always been. And some people, they come into their own. And once they get there, it's like, once you get there, you really know who you are. And you are just that person, like you said, when you're like, I'm gonna
Right.
nurture Marsha. It's almost like I woke up and was like, it's go time.
Here I am.
Here I am. It's go time. I am living in the most authentic self
Yes.
that I have ever been at. I am authentically myself. I have always been, but I didn't truly exercise it until now.
I feel that.
This
I
is
see
who I
that.
am. And those that don't like it, it's okay. You don't have to be for everyone. It used to bother me.
Right.
Now I'm like, it's fine, and not in a negative way. But
I'm in
if
that
it's I'm
same.
not for
I'm
you,
not for everyone.
yeah, I'm not for everybody, and
Right.
that's okay.
And even when people ask me like, when are you gonna find someone, I go, I don't know. I don't even think about that part because I'm so good
That
here,
part.
and I'm not for everyone.
No.
So I know that special person might take some time, and I'm okay to wait for that.
And that's good.
Right.
That is great for you to
What are you
know.
gonna do about it?
Exactly.
Right.
It's like, so what you gonna do about it, Marsha?
Right.
You know, and that's a big thing for me. You know, I'm just in such a great place. I almost feel like it's weird to say this, but it's like I woke up just like, this is me. I am authentically myself. This is what I like. This is, if I'm not for you, it's okay.
And you're living
Scroll
for
past
yourself.
me.
Right.
Walk by me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
I guarantee that you're going to reach more people being yourself and telling your truth, right?
I always have.
You know, and I think that's what's so special here. And I'm so grateful that, you've shared your story with us here. And I know that it's going to reach people because it touches me and it gives me strength, and know that there's always something to do about it. Yes. And I'm going to do something about it.
Yes.
I'm not going to stay in one place.
Yes.
And I'm going to see where my journey is going to lead me. I'm going to watch your journey and where it's going to lead you. Mm-hmm. And what you're already doing, you've already, like, you have your T line, and there's so much more for your future, our future.
Yes.
And we're doing it, and we're on that path, and let's say goodbye to the darkness. And girl, we're stepping into our light.
That is it.
And that's all we need to do.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yes.
Well, I want to thank you again for coming on, Marsha.
Thank you for sharing your story.
No, I mean, that's all we're here to do, is to share our human experience and hopefully grow and learn from it. And I've definitely grown and learned from you today. Oh. And I love you so much.
I love you.
And thank you for sharing your light.
Always.
This podcast is brought to you by Vocal Podcast Network. Executive producers are Michaela Simon and Marsha Molinari. Produced by Yonta Taiwo, Morgan McDonald, and Ariana Giles. Shooting and editing by Morgan McDonald. Music by Aaron Reece. Artwork by Dominic Demetz, and hosted by Marsha Molinari. Remember to follow at Marsha Molinari and at Vocal Podcasts everywhere. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast.